I'm not very good at that sounds like people can hear me. So welcome. My name is Lee, and I'm part of the Syracuse Peace Council. And we are really happy that people showed up because we threw this together pretty fast. I'd also like to thank all of the different organizations that endorsed these efforts and sponsored this rally with us. I'd like to thank Democratic Socialists of America. Woo! And their big win in New York. Yes. Yep. I'd like to thank the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who are also doing the security here for us today, or the marshaling. So I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank Jewish Voice for Peace. I would like to thank CNY Solidarity. I would like to thank Veterans for Peace. And I would like to thank Indivisible Onondaga County. I think I hit them all. Yeah, so the Peace Council is, as our name says, an organization that has been working for peace for the last 90 years. We are proud of ourselves because we educate, we agitate, and we organize. Yes. So, a lot of us are around, and today we're going to have 3 quick speakers because it's very hot, but each of them is a part of the sort of broad umbrella that Syracuse Peace Council is, as are everybody in this room, actually, because there is no, or in this area, because we don't have a membership, you're just part of us. So before we have Julia come up, I'm going to have Sid lead us in a couple of chants, and then Julia Ganson will come up. Julia is a anthropologist, a sociologist, excuse me. She's just a really great person, one of my good friends. But she has been worked with the Syracuse Peace Council for a long time, and also works with a number of other national organizations such as Code Inc., World Beyond War, and lots of, Veterans for Peace, and lots of others. And Julia spends half of the year in New Mexico and half of the year here with us. So we're really happy that this happens to be part of the year that she's here. So I'm going to turn you over to Sid for a couple of chants, and then we'll have Julia come up.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Congress APAC, can't you see? Palestine will be free.
Congress APAC, can't you see? Palestine will be free.
Netanyahu is a liar. We demand a ceasefire.
Netanyahu is a liar. We demand a ceasefire.
Israel, you can't hide. You're committing genocide.
Israel, you can't hide. You're committing genocide.
Thank you, Sid. And, I'm going to fall on this. I wanted to say one other thing before Julia comes up. The clipboard going around is a statement that we're going to be giving to Mannion's office. We've asked them to come down and join us, so we'll see if they do. And if not, we will be making a meeting and going up and giving it to them. So if anyone hasn't signed it and you see the clipboard going around, that would be great. Thank you. And Julia, with no further ado.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here, for taking time to have your voice join with the larger community voice here protesting against a new war. The statement that Lee just mentioned by the Peace Council is most of my comments. I'm going to read this statement and then say a few things about it. As advocates for peace, social justice, and democracy, we denounce Trump's illegal and unconstitutional attack on Iran. We call on Congress to immediately invoke the War Powers Act in order to halt further military action. The wars being waged by Israel, aided and abetted by the U.S. government as well as some Western European powers, are an existential threat to humankind. We denounce war-making as the way to address conflict, as well as the increasing militarism of our police and of U.S. borders. We need our elected representatives to stand up against authoritarianism and oligarchy. We call on our friends, allies, and neighbors to join us in demanding a politics that will sustain life, and we reject the imperialist politics of domination, destruction, and death. Since taking office, President Trump has continued to arm Israel's settler colonial occupation of Palestine, remained complicit in the Gaza genocide, and participated in the extension of war to Lebanon and Syria. With the attack on Iran, the Trump administration is edging us all closer to World War III and nuclear annihilation. It is an outright war crime. It violates the UN Charter, international law, and the U.S. Constitution. It threatens to set into motion a regional or even global war with massive casualties, nuclear radiation, and catastrophic consequences. We agree with the stated goal of preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. However, that goal must be expanded to include universal nuclear disarmament. When the U.S. uses its nuclear status to inflict its will, other countries believe they too must have nuclear weapons. The only way the U.S. can lead toward a peaceful and just world is by leading towards disarmament.
Right.
It bears noting that Iran has signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, but Israel, the ally who Trump claims to support through these strikes, is one of the few countries which has refused to sign the NPT. And under the treaty, the U.S. and other nuclear nations are, quote, obligated to pursue negotiations in good faith on effective measures related to the cessation of the nuclear arms race and nuclear disarmament. We demand an immediate end to U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran and its sovereignty. The people of the United States want more funding for health care, education, and infrastructure. Lots of great signs targeted just there. Instead, Trump and his war hawks are contributing to ongoing wars that put the world at risk, will cause the bloodshed of Iranians and ultimately Americans, and only benefit the military-industrial complex. As Central New Yorkers, we demand that Representative John Mannion and Senators Charles Schumer and Christian Gillibrand vocally and actively support the efforts to invoke the War Powers Act proposed by Representatives Massey and Ro-Khanna and Senator Payne. These resolutions would terminate the use of United States armed forces from hostilities against the Islamic Republic of Iran or any part of its government or military unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war or specific authorization for use of military force against Iran. The resolutions would halt the war and provide a check on the Trump regime, which seeks to further concentrate power in the executive branch and advances war profiteering by the corporate elite. So to end the statement and then make a few comments, we call on our friends, allies, and neighbors to join us in public protests and acts of individual resistance against war. Let us collectively voice opposition to Trump's flagrant disregard for international law and the militarization of our society in calling on Congress to immediately invoke the War Powers Act. Second, in supporting the People Over the Pentagon Act, which would cut Pentagon spending by $100 billion and make that money available for pressing human needs, including dealing with climate change. And in working with other long-term organizations whose goals include building broader coalitions that can transform society. It is only the long-term mobilization of the working class, broadly defined, organizing in solidarity with allied struggles for social justice, such as the environmental movement, the anti-racism movement, etc., that can bring about transformational change, as contrasted with short-term single-issue reforms. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "We must see now that the evils of racism, economic exploitation, and militarism are all tied together. And you can't get rid of one without getting rid of the others." So that's the statement. And just a few comments to sort of detail some of that and specifically identify how you might get involved. The 3 points at the end of the statement provide, some food for thought about ideas and practical details for action. So first of all, support the bipartisan efforts in Congress to invoke the War Powers Act. It's been proposed by Representatives Massey, who's a Republican, and Rohana, a Democrat in the House, and by Kane, who's a Democrat in the Senate. It would halt the war and check Trump's attempt to concentrate power in the executive branch, as well as resist their welfare for the rich, namely corporations and billionaires making huge profits from weapons manufacturing and surveillance development. So there are handbills going around that speak to this and provide the number that you can call. And I just urge you to email, call, write letters to our representatives or whoever your representatives are, and urge them to know that that's what you think. Also, write, email, or call Schumer, Gillibrand, and Mannion's offices to say that you as a constituent want them to support the resolution. House Speaker Mike Johnson just said that this resolution to limit the president's power to wage unilateral war is unconstitutional. It is not unconstitutional.
We don't live in a Christian republic, we live in a democratic.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can't, he may not be your representative, but you also can call or email Johnson's office to say, we the people want to keep this power to wage war in the hands of Congress and for elected representatives. In addition to the War Powers Resolution, support the people over the Pentagon Act to cut spending to the military for war making. People over the Pentagon Act has been around since 21, I think, or 22. It's now just about to be reintroduced into Congress by one of the original sponsors, Mark Pocan. Third of all, I urge you to work with local and national organizations like Syracuse Peace Council, Veterans for Peace, Jewish Voice for Peace, World Beyond War, Code Pink, and Central New York Solidarity Coalition, and Indivisible, to resist militarization as well as militarism as insidious in our culture. We need to build broad coalitions around working families for economic and social justice. It's not a time to be decisive and split hairs. Let's find that common ground. As I sometimes say, it's all one movement. It really is. We're all after the same thing with different strategies, perhaps. It's all one movement: anti-racist, environmental, anti-war, and caring for one another in community. Let's work towards fundamental transformational change. And last of all, I'll just say, there are many, many ways to resist individually. I'm just going to mention two of them, and if you want more information, then certainly the Peace Council and Veterans for Peace, the local Veterans for Peace, will have information about them. The first one is consider tax resistance, war tax resistance. We have people in the community who have done that. Of course, the Quakers and Friends and other peace religions have long histories of doing that, and they have ways that you're not left alone to do it. People work in groups, so you know what to expect if you decide to hold back a portion of your taxes that would go to the military. And last of all, just trying to raise awareness that in New York State, when you get a driver's license, you automatically are registered with a selective service. And it's a fairly easy road from there to, if a military draft is established, to tap into that selective service. So there are ways to make your voices heard about this too. So I'm going to end by saying, if anyone can't read my t-shirt, the first casualty of war is the truth. The rest are mostly civilians. We don't gain anything, and we have a huge amount to lose with war. Beware of the propaganda used by the corporate media to frame and explain why we have to bomb Iran, why we have to expand our nuclear arsenal, and also to use military force against our immigrant neighbors ad nauseum. And I'm going to hand this over to Sarah, who is going to talk about the real history of the U.S. plans around. Just a small portion of it. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming out on this nice day. Thank God global warming isn't real, because otherwise I think today felt good. Woo! That's a relief. Okay, so the U.S. is a deeply militarized state. That's what we just heard, and we live it. So war and militarism are central to U.S. culture, history, and identity. Just the other day, I saw a statistic claiming that the U.S. has been at war for 93% of its history. I was like, wow, that's a big number. But it still didn't seem right to me. I mean, as a settler colonial state built on the forced relocation, genocide, and ongoing cultural annihilation of the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, I'd say we've been at war for 100% of our history. But that's for another rally. Today we're here to say no to war with Iran, and to demand that our so-called representatives put a check on the authoritarian consolidation of power by the Trump administration, and to tell them that they can start by actively supporting the War Powers Resolution Act and the People Over the Pentagon Act when it is released. So even as we're not yet at war with Iran, not officially, we're already well versed in the rhetoric that aims to justify war. Right, to stop the threat of nuclear proliferation in the Middle East, especially in Iran. Right? In the Middle East broadly, but especially in Iran. To protect and promote democracy in the Middle East. To liberate their young people and to save their women. This is why we go to war. So I'm not suggesting we should appreciate or tolerate fundamentalist states when I'm being critical. I sure as hell don't care for the one we're living in. But I am calling BS on the rhetoric, and so I want to talk about the duplicity of empire. And I begin with a sort of brief historical story. So in 2002, just after 9/11, almost a year to the day, an expert witness testified that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. To win the war, the expert claimed, the U.S. must, quote, take out Saddam's regime. He went on to suggest there would be enormous positive reverberations on the region, including next door in Iran, where the people would celebrate and welcome U.S. as liberators. That expert witness was Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm old enough to remember that there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Right.
And it's safe to say that Iran doesn't have any made yet either. And that idea, right, that there are not weapons being built by Iran, is also what the International Atomic and Energy Agency says, and Trump's own security analyst. Well, Trump says he doesn't care what his spies and intelligence officers say. I do. And you do too. That's why we're here. Right? I care because there's already been enough death and destruction. And I don't want any more. So, I want to go back a little bit further to identify a document that was created in 1996. It was authored by a group of neoconservatives led by a former Assistant Defense Secretary to Donald Rumsfeld, whose name is Richard Pearl. So this document was created mostly for Benjamin Netanyahu in his first year as Prime Minister. And the document outlines a series of strategies in terms of, the document's name. The document's name was, first of all, a clean break, a new strategy for securing the realm. This is pre-Game of Thrones, so I think it's very dramatic, right, securing the realm. But the clean break analyst referred to this now as a how-to manual for regime change in the Middle East. So first of all, what is a clean break? What was defined in this policy document? One, it was a clean break with the Oslo Accords, right? This is 1996. The Oslo Accords are underway, sort of peace process, whatever we think about that peace process. It was a clean break with that peace process. And so it's a clean break with the Oslo Accords, with securing peace by giving up occupied land, with the notion of Palestinian independence and sovereignty and statehood, and giving up on the idea or charting a clean break with a two-state solution. The idea of securing the realm meant security, statehood, and sovereignty for Israel alone in the region. It meant a clean break with the soft power of diplomacy and negotiation, to rely on military force and tactics to remove all obstacles to Israeli settler colonial ambitions. So it also included a clean break, in terms of including a clean break with the peace process. It was a break with the treatment of and power over Palestinians themselves, right? A break from negotiating land for peace to insisting on peace for peace, which meant you be peaceful and we'll give you peace. You put up with the conditions of living and life as we define them for you, and we'll let you live in peace. And so, there's a lot of chatter happening around here. Okay. And it also was a document that intended to develop strategies for regime change and for undermining the legitimacy of the Arab states. And so the document outlined this plan to, one, take down Hussein in Syria or in Iraq, then to go after Syria, Lebanon, and Iran. So what we're living is this sort of idea constructed 30 years ago, and of course it never works out the way it was planned. I'm not suggesting there's a mastermind manipulated history, but this was a plan set in place by the United States and by Israel, by their war hawks and their conservatives, and it is over time becoming a reality. And so all of it, right, is facilitated by the mainstream corporate media, right? Because we're watching a genocide play out on TV. We know that we're not saving anyone. We know that democracy is flawed and we don't have it here and we can't take it there, right? And so our defense, our efforts to say, stop this genocide, stop this war, are being met with the repression and dissent here at home. They're also being met with the weaponization of anti-Semitism as a means to quash dissent, right? We have Donald Trump saying he protects Jews and he will punish anti-Semitism. Well, this is a man who had a lovely dinner with a white supremacist and Holocaust denier. He is not defending Jews from anti-Semitism, right? This is a weaponization of it in order to punish those who actually want an end to the genocide and want an end to war. And so, yeah, I guess I would end in a similar way are we good?
Yeah, well, Mannion's office is down here, so I just wanted to mention that, but you will keep going.
I was just going to re-articulate, I think. Thank you, Julia. Julia was where I was going, but Julia, thank you. That we need to understand that we are not an us and a them. The differences between us are contrived and constructed. It's divide and rule. It's conquering by othering. And us working together and understanding each other's struggles as they take shape is the way that we push through, persevere, and achieve social justice, not just for us, but for everybody. No justice?
Thank you, Sarah. And we have one more short speaker. She's not only physically short, but she's not going to speak for very long. And because I know everyone's really hot, I wanted to let you know that a representative of Representative Mannion's office has come down. Emily, she's kind of behind that pole over there. In the shade, they have bottles of water. I will be giving her the statement with all of the signatures on it. They also have cards that people could go over and fill out, and pens telling Mannion what you would like him to do or not do. And they have copies of the House resolution that is being introduced, and you can take a look at that. I'm not going to go into it right this second. So I just wanted to let people know that, and thank you, Emily, for taking the time to come down. So, and without further ado, let me introduce to you Diane Swartz. Diane Swartz has been a member of the Peace Council for a long time. She is one of the driving forces behind the Nuclear Free World Committee, and she sits on the national board of Beyond the Brink. Back from the brink. I always do that wrong. Back from the brink. And she is just going to talk for a few minutes about the nuclear part of this, and then we are going to wrap it up with a few chants.
Thank you. Great, thank you. Short people, short talking. I want to briefly just reiterate what Julia and Sarah said. Nuclear weapons are immoral. Use of any militarism backed by nuclear weapons is illegal and counterproductive. And there are actions that can be taken by we the people and by our representatives. So I'm really appreciative of Representative Mannion sending a staff person down. Thank you, Emily. And I want to say something to what Representative Mannion said about his support of Israel when the bombing by Israel started, because I think many of us here and many Jews, myself included, and a lot of my friends would say that the Israeli action is endangering the people of Israel. It's not good for the long-term survival of Israel as a group, and we need to be, instead of supporting that kind of action, we need to be finding a much better road. And we were on the road to diplomacy when the bombing started. So the recent strikes by nuclear-armed states of Israel and the U.S. against Iran, which is a non-nuclear adversary, make a stark point. Current powers believe in brute nuclear force, not democracy. We need to turn that around. The crisis of so-called deterrence doesn't prevent conflict, but incentivizes aggression by those who have the bomb. Intelligence from the U.S. and Israel did not show an imminent threat, and the other two speakers have gone into that. The crisis of deterrence is inseparable from the crisis of democracy. And I think there's information on these flyers that I hope Congressman Mannion will also look at, about the War Powers Act and the People Over Pentagon Act. We need money for the things in our communities that are lacking and not for weapons. And I'll just mention one other piece of legislation that we think Congressman Mannion will support, because as a state senator, he supported the resolution that Back from the Brink had put forth, and now it's House Resolution 317, and we want to encourage him to support that, and you to add to our encouragement for him to support that, and there's information on the Peace Council website about that under a nuclear-free world. So I'm going to stop right now because I think we're all melting. There's so much more that could be said, but let's, let's support the people and democracy and not fascism and war.
U.S. out of Middle East.
U.S. out of Middle East.
We want justice, we want peace.
We want justice, we want peace.
U.S. out of Middle East.
U.S. out of Middle East.
We want justice, we want peace.
We want justice, we want peace.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
This racist war has got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, this racist war has got to go.
Money for jobs and education, not for bombs and occupation.
Money for jobs and education, not for bombs and occupation.
Money for jobs and education, not for bombs and occupation.
Money for jobs and education, not for bombs and occupation.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Free, free, free Palestine.
Thank you, everyone, very much for coming. If anyone's interested in the Peace Council, getting on our newsletter list, there's a QR code circling through the crowd. You can just scan it and fill out our quick form. And I want to once again thank all of our allies in this, PSL, DSA, CNY Solidarity, Indivisible Onondaga County, Veterans for Peace, and Jewish Voice for Peace. So thank you so much, and let's keep up the struggle, and no more fucking wars.